In the quiet, modest town of Somerville, Massachusetts, a chilling crime rattled the town's very foundation. This was a place where residents recognized each other, where the lanes were secure and the faces known. However, on a fateful day on March 30th, 1995, a horrifying revelation would disrupt this serene town. Deanna J. Kremin, a teenager full of potential, was discovered motionless not far from her own home. It was a scene that resonated through this tight-knit community. The ones who discovered her were not hard-boiled detectives or experienced crime scene investigators, but two neighbor children whom Deanna used to babysit. The initial law enforcement reaction was instant, as officers swarmed the location with a palpable urgency and apprehension. This wasn't merely another crime scene, it was a savage violation of the security and purity that Somerville cherished. The officers worked diligently, collecting evidence and sealing off the vicinity, their expressions a veil of professionalism, concealing the shock and sorrow that lurked beneath. However, despite their endeavors, the scene posed more riddles than solutions. Deanna had been mercilessly assaulted and strangled, her body discarded in a spot she once regarded as safe. But what individual could perpetrate such a heinous act, and for what reason? The queries lingered, an eerie echo of the catastrophe that had unfolded. As hours ticked by, the news propagated rapidly, casting a bleak shadow over the town. Fear and ambiguity supplanted the usual peace and tranquility. Parents hugged their offspring closer, residents viewed each other with suspicion, and a community grieved the loss of a cherished member. The serene town was embroiled in a perplexing puzzle that still remains unsolved to this day, a mystery that would test the unity of this bonded community, a mystery that would imprint a scar on Somerville's soul. A mystery that commenced with a spine-chilling discovery. Deanna J. Kremin, an energetic and cherished 17-year-old girl, emerged as the center of this eerie case. Recognized for her contagious mirth and compassionate demeanor, Deanna was a resident of Somerville, Massachusetts, shining like a star in her locale. A high school junior, she skillfully balanced her academic pursuits with a part-time role at a nearby bakery, where her vibrant personality endeared her to patrons. Deanna harbored aspirations of becoming a child psychologist, intending to guide misdirected adolescents. She played an active role in her locale, dedicating her leisure to a local after-school initiative and nurturing the youngsters she wished to aid in her anticipated profession. Her connections painted an image of a quintessential teen. She had a tight band of comrades, an affectionate kin, and a beau. Each bond was evidence of her altruistic nature and her aptitude for spreading happiness. An abrupt halt of a youthful existence, brimming with potential, left a town in mourning and a kin craving for justice. As the horrific specifics of Deanna's demise came to light, the appalling nature of the offense became increasingly apparent. This calamity's stark truth was that Deanna Kremin, a lively 17-year-old, was discovered sexually violated and asphyxiated, a horrifying cessation to a life that had barely taken off. Her lifeless form was found on the last day of March in 1995, just 4 days after her birthday, in close vicinity to her residence in Somerville, Massachusetts. The site served as a chilling testament to the closeness of malevolence ever present in our midst. The lethal cause was confirmed to be strangulation, a savage and intimate technique, revealing much about the offender's purpose and the degree of brutality employed. The sexual abuse preceding the homicide introduced an additional element of wickedness to the offense. It was a terrifying transgression, intensifying the sensation of injustice and sorrow experienced by her family, friends, and the community at large. The crime scene, utterly devoid of any dignity for the victim, was a grim display of the savage deed. Deanna's remains were uncovered, deserted, and exposed, a stark contrast to the vibrant, cherished individual she once was. However, it's crucial to handle this matter with utmost sensitivity, honoring Deanna's memory and acknowledging the continuous grief of her kin and companions. It's critical to bear in mind that beyond the crime statistics and sensational headlines was a young girl with aspirations, ambitions, and a family who treasured her. The particulars of this offense depicted a premeditated, monstrous act. A blossoming life was snuffed out, and the purity of a community was permanently marred. This was not merely an attack on Deanna. It was a violation of the tranquility and safety of every inhabitant of Somerville. In the wake of Deanna's untimely death, an array of potential culprits emerged from the shadows. The two most prominent figures were intimately connected to Deanna, an association that only served to enhance the suspicions surrounding their involvement in this atrocious act. Initially, we have Deanna's adolescent sweetheart. Youthful and smitten, it's challenging to perceive him as a potential offender. Yet being among the last individuals to spot Deanna alive, along with discrepancies in his narrative of the murder night, aroused considerable skepticism. His failure to offer an explicit and consistent timeline of their final night together, compounded by his unwillingness to collaborate with the authorities, painted an image of conceivable culpability. For some reason, on that fateful night, he only walked Deanna half of the way home instead of the entire way. Deanna's mum claimed it was extremely strange, since he always walked her the whole way home. Nevertheless, in spite of these dubious circumstances, no tangible proof surfaced to associate him with the offence. Hence, he faced no legal accusations. Subsequently, our focus shifts to a seemingly improbable suspect, a local fireman who allegedly showed a peculiar attraction towards Deanna. The basis of his obsession remained ambiguous. Nevertheless, it was sufficient to put him under the investigative microscope. This respected community member suddenly found himself in the eye of a murder probe. Yet, akin to the boyfriend's case, the situational evidence could not transform into anything more weighty, and he too was spared charges. The pair, each carrying their unique suspicion baggage, were never officially indicted. Deanna's murder continues to be an unresolved homicide, with elements that stubbornly resist fitting into a logical pattern. The dearth of tangible proof and the lack of a transparent motive, combined with the relentless march of time, have together birthed an impenetrable mystery that stymies investigators. Even with these tantalizing leads, justice remains out of reach, leaving Deanna's family and the community grappling with a distressing ambiguity. For nearly 3 decades, the quest for justice for Deanna Kremin has been ceaseless and unfaltering. The odyssey to unveil the reality behind Deanna's premature end has been a taxing journey, punctuated by staunch determination from her family and the police. Deanna's family, steadfast in preventing her narrative from fading into oblivion, has led this quest. They have persistently sought clarity, unflinching in their duty to peel back the layers of mystery. Their pledge is to commemorate Deanna's existence and ensure her departure was not in vain. Each year they post a billboard seeking any information in solving this lingering, dreadful deed. They have raised a total of $50,000 for a reward on any info that leads to the conviction of Deanna's murderer. The police have displayed a similar unwavering dedication to resolving this case. Throughout the years, they've repeatedly revisited the case, scrutinizing evidence and re-questioning potential suspects. Their primary aim remains clear: achieving justice for Deanna. Yet the quest for justice stretches beyond her family and law enforcement, extending to the community of Somerville, Massachusetts. Here, Deanna's legacy is preserved through a joint endeavor. Annual gatherings, teeming with attendees, honor Deanna, acting as poignant reminders of her abruptly ended youth. Monuments dedicated to Deanna stand tall, embodying a community's refusal to erase her from their hearts. Scholarships have been launched in her memory, metamorphosing a tragic loss into a ray of hope for others. Through these initiatives, Deanna's spirit flourishes, her existence etched deep into the community's core. Nonetheless, the identity of Deanna's killer remains concealed. Yet with each sunrise, the drive for truth intensifies. The labyrinthine journey towards justice will persist. While we honor Deanna's memory, we persist in our battle for justice, fostering the hope that the veil will eventually lift from this chilling mystery. For over 25 years, the unresolved homicide of a young lad has been a spectral presence in north-central Georgia. This alarming reality forms the heart-wrenching narrative of Levi Frady. Full of spirit, Levi was last seen riding his bike on Little Mill Road in Forsyth County. His sudden vanishing took a grim twist when his lifeless body was unearthed in the Dawson Forest Wildlife Management Area. Coincidentally, Levi was found on the first day of hunting season in the area. The situation, a chilling enigma, has yielded no concrete solutions, leaving behind only a series of unresolved queries. For a quarter of a century, detectives have been unflaggingly striving to decipher the jigsaw of Levi's premature end. The unsettling reality is that despite the passage of years, notwithstanding the commitment and ceaseless endeavors of the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, Dawson County Sheriff's Office, and Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the truth is still obscure. The lingering question: who ended Levi Frady's life? When the revelation of Levi's vanishing echoed, it created a tremor within the community. The nightmare of a lost child is every parent's dread, a calamity that imprints an enduring scar on any society. In the quaint hamlet of Forsyth County, the assurance of safety was fractured abruptly. In the aftermath of Levi's vanishing, a comprehensive probe was immediately initiated. The Dawson County Sheriff's Office, Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, convened to unveil the truth. They toiled endlessly, meticulously inspecting every fragment of the Dawson Forest Wildlife Management Area, the tragic location where Levi's body was discovered. They pursued leads and interrogated potential informants, not overlooking any detail. Nonetheless, as time turned days into weeks and weeks into months, the sought-after clarity remained elusive. Despite their meticulous efforts, the local law enforcement and the GBI found themselves wrestling with an intractable mystery. The haunting query persisted: who could have perpetrated such an atrocious act on an innocent 11-year-old? Amidst the ambiguity, two potential informants surfaced. However, their linkage to the case was murky. The detectives were left with more mysteries than solutions, and the case began to stagnate. The scarcity of substantial leads and tangible evidence created a frustrating gap in the pursuit of justice. The Forsyth County inhabitants and the devoted officers clung on to optimism. Yet, as time ebbed, the chilling reality began to sink in. Despite their unyielding efforts, the unsolved crime of Levi's tragic demise remained a conundrum, a stark reminder of the brutal veracity of crime, that occasionally, despite our utmost endeavors, justice remains elusive. The search for truth persists, the flame of optimism continually flickering in the hearts of those who cherished Levi Frady. Identified were two potential informants, yet their relevance to the matter remains nebulous. An aura of ambiguity surrounds their importance in Levi Frady's unsolved assassination. This young boy, discovered lifeless in Dawson Forest Wildlife Management Area, left a labyrinth of questions in his wake. The first potential informant was spotted near Little Mill Road in Forsyth County, Levi's last known location. A witness described the person of interest as a white male in his late 50s with a scruffy grey beard and a hunched walk. He was seen at the area where Levi was found around 6:30 that night. Nonetheless, the facts involving this individual remain as elusive as the seasonal fog that frequents the region. Their purpose there is unknown, an innocent bystander or a silent observer of the event. The second potential informant, similar to the first, was also pinpointed near the crime scene. The man was described to be in his 40s or 50s, clean-shaved and tall. Yet their link to the incident, however, mirrors a cloudy pond. It raises the question, were they inopportunely situated, or do they possess a fragment of the puzzle that could edge investigators toward the truth? Both informants have garnered attention from the Dawson County Sheriff's Office, the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Despite the lapse of a quarter century, the significance of these two individuals in Levi's case remains an enigma. The investigators persist in their search for answers, delving deeper, unweaving the complex threads of this intricate case. Yet the puzzle fragments, the potential informants, and the unanswered inquiries continue to baffle. They grapple with a jigsaw where some pieces may not even belong. The puzzle pieces existed, but they simply didn't align. It's a stark reminder that the journey to truth is frequently strewn with obstacles and impasses. Nonetheless, the pursuit of justice for Levi Frady endures, unaffected by the passage of time or the scarcity of promising leads. Levi's demise, devastating as it was, sparked noteworthy progress in Georgia. It was the impetus for reform, a ray of hope during bleak times, and a heritage thriving beyond his premature ending. Levi's heartbreaking disappearance and death resulted in the creation of a protective system against such future atrocities. This system, Levi's Call, is an immediate alert system for kidnapped children in Georgia. It operates as an amber alert within the state, swiftly broadcasting information on recent child abductions to law enforcement, news outlets, transport agencies, and the community at large. Its goal is to mobilize community action instantly to expedite the return of missing children. Since its launch, Levi's Call has been instrumental in countless investigations, offering solace to desperate parents and posing a hurdle to potential wrongdoers. It has aided the authorities in locating leads quickly, rescuing abducted children promptly and holding wrongdoers accountable. Levi's Call is not merely a system, but a legacy symbolizing a young boy whose life was tragically abridged, yet his memory continues to shield children throughout Georgia. Each activation of Levi's Call, each child it helps recover, and each criminal it brings to justice underscores Levi's enduring legacy. His premature death catalyzed change, creating a safeguard for Georgia's children. Levi's lasting influence aids in defending Georgia's youngest citizens. Through this system, his name resonates across the state as a token of hope, a shield of protection, and a tribute to the potency of community engagement. As we delve further into the mystery of his case, we commemorate Levi, not solely for the unfortunate fate he endured, but for the lasting legacy he bequeathed. Despite the passage of time, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation tirelessly seeks new leads on a mystifying case. A quarter of a century has elapsed since the discovery of 11-year-old Levi Frady's lifeless body in Dawson Forest Wildlife Management Area. Yet, this baffling crime story remains an unsolved riddle, the resolution of which is ardently sought by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Dawson County Sheriff's Office, and the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office, all unwavering in their pursuit of truth. Two potential witnesses are on the radar, but their nexus to the incident is still murky. The investigators are optimistic that these individuals, or perhaps some unknown witnesses yet to emerge, possess the key to deciphering this long-standing conundrum. If you, or anyone you're acquainted with, have any nugget of information, regardless of its apparent insignificance, it could be the missing link in this complex case. The GBI's tip line, reachable at 1-800-597-8477, awaits your crucial input. Your identity remains concealed, and your assistance could tip the scales. In a case as inscrutable and heart-rending as this, every shred of information has import. Each clue is vital. Bear in mind that it's not merely about resolving an old case. It's about providing solace to a family that has yearned for answers for over 2 decades. It's about paying tribute to a young life that abruptly ended. It's about upholding justice and ensuring that the perpetrator of this vile deed faces retribution. Perhaps with your intervention, justice for Levi will finally be rendered.
In the heart of winter, 1956, Chicago was shrouded in an icy mystery that lingers unresolved even today. The city, notorious for its piercing winds and streets, was tormented by a chilling cryptic event that would span decades and engrave a lasting scar on its history. The key figures of this unsolved crime were the Grimes sisters, Patricia and Barbara, 2 ordinary girls whose hearts beat for the melodious tunes of Elvis Presley. As dusk settled, the sisters departed from their snug dwelling in McKinley Park, their hearts fluttering with the thrill of watching the latest Elvis flick. But this normal evening took a tragic turn, marking their last journey together. The girls disappeared, devoured by the icy cold night, sending a wave of apprehension across the city. They were not wild or rebellious teenagers in search of an adventure. They were merely 2 girls who went to enjoy a movie and never returned. As the city watched in silent terror, the clock continued its march, turning hours into days and days into weeks. The holiday cheer was overshadowed by a gnawing fear, the joyous festivities replaced by an eerily unsettling silence. The twinkling lights of the Christmas decorations stood as a grim reminder of the girls' absence, casting long, foreboding shadows on the snow-covered streets. The enormity of their disappearance activated an unprecedented response, launching one of the city's largest investigations. The Chicago Police Department, alongside community volunteers, covered a wide area in search of the sisters, utilizing helicopters, bloodhounds, and even calling in assistance from the FBI. Various theories were explored and leads were followed, but all to no avail. It was an enigma that refused to be unraveled, a conundrum that defied any logical explanation. The stage was set, the characters in place, and the curtain was about to rise on one of the city's most baffling unsolved crimes. The question that still lingers: what happened to the Grimes sisters on that bone-chilling December night? Just weeks after their disappearance, a shocking revelation was unearthed. The once vibrant city of Chicago found itself in the chilling grasp of winter. The Grimes sisters, Patricia and Barbara, who had gone missing, were unearthed in a gruesome condition. The sisters, known for their devotion to Elvis Presley, were found in January of 1957, their lives tragically cut short. They were unearthed on a desolate roadside, a sight that would haunt the memories of those who found them. That dreadful day, a construction worker was canvassing the area as the snow receded, only to find two flesh-colored things protruding from the frozen ground. It would be later that evening when he returned with his wife, who fainted at the sight, would discover the truth. Their bodies, still encapsulated in ice, bore the marks of a gruesome end, puncture wounds, and evidence of blunt force trauma. But the autopsy reports would reveal a more chilling truth. The cold, harsh winter had not been kind to the sisters. Their bodies were frozen, a grim testament to their untimely demise. The coroner's findings were perplexing. The cause of death, shockingly, was not attributed to the visible injuries on their bodies. Instead, it was ruled as shock and exposure. The brutal winter had claimed their lives. The grisly nature of their condition led investigators to believe that they had been subjected to a terrible fate. The puncture wounds, the blunt force trauma, these were not signs of a quick or merciful end. Yet, the autopsy revealed no lethal injuries. It was as if the sisters had been left to the mercy of the unforgiving elements. An examination of their bodies revealed an even more puzzling detail. Toxicology reports showed no signs of drugs or alcohol. This was not a case of a reckless night gone wrong. The Grimes sisters' gruesome unearthing was just the beginning of a mystery that would baffle investigators for decades to come. With their bodies discovered and the city in shock, the probe into the Grimes sisters' murders commenced. The year was 1956, an era where crime scene analysis was in its infancy. This, along with mismanagement of the probe, led to a muddled case, leaving more questions than answers. The initial autopsy did not reveal any fatal wounds. The cause of death was ruled as shock and exposure, with no substances detected in their systems. Puncture wounds and evidence of blunt force trauma were noted, yet the exact circumstances of their death remained elusive. A massive manhunt ensued, the likes of which Chicago had rarely seen before. Authorities pursued every lead, even the most outlandish ones. Theories about what happened to the sisters varied widely. Some speculated that they were kidnapped, others thought they had run away to emulate Elvis Presley's lifestyle, a theory sparked by their well-known devotion to the king of rock and roll. Several potential suspects emerged during the course of the probe, including a man named Charles Melquist. Despite some compelling indicators, he was never fully probed and died in 2010, taking any secrets he may have had with him. However, no concrete evidence linking anyone to the murders was ever uncovered. The probe deepened in mystery with every unfolding development. As years turned into decades, the Grimes sisters' case remained chillingly unresolved. Despite the relentless investigations, the questions, the theories, the case turned cold, forging an icy void in Chicago's history. The vanishing and tragic end of Barbara and Patricia Grimes evolved into a chilling tale, whispered through the years. It became one of the city's most notorious cold cases, a puzzle missing crucial pieces, still yearning for an ending. The sisters' story, their devotion to Elvis Presley, and the puzzle shrouding their untimely demise only amplified the intrigue. Years later, a retired detective, Ray Johnson, took a keen interest in the case. Johnson named a potential suspect. Charles Melquist was a man with a dark past, a past that suggested he could be capable of such a heinous act. However, Melquist was never thoroughly investigated. He slipped through the cracks of the justice system. The Grimes sisters' case, a chilling tale of a night out that transformed into a nightmare, of two young lives tragically short, remains unresolved. It's a grim reminder of the puzzles that lurk in the shadows. Despite the passage of time, the case refuses to fade into oblivion. The Grimes sisters' case, frozen in and puzzle, continues to linger in the annals of unsolved crimes.
Our tale commences in the heart of New York City, where Georgette Bauerdorf was ushered into an environment of wealth and affluence. This heiress, the progeny of an oil magnate, was cradled in opulence, her lifestyle serving as a striking contradiction to the hardship and trials faced by the average American. Yet, as we all know, fortune is not synonymous with fulfillment, and Georgette craved something beyond her inherited prosperity. As early as 1935, this aspirant, whose ambition mirrored the magnitude of her father's oil kingdom, resolved to venture out into the world and relocate to the city of Los Angeles. The City of Angels, renowned for its twinkling lights and the allure of stardom it held, seemed to be the ideal backdrop for Georgette to chase her dream of stepping into the limelight as an actress. Hollywood, the dream factory, where every aspiring actress dreams of capturing the spotlight. While in anticipation of her significant breakthrough, Georgette commenced working at the Los Angeles Times. Although it was not her dream stage, it was a stepping stone on her path. Yet Georgette was not merely a glittering socialite. She also had a golden heart. She dedicated her free time to volunteering at the Hollywood canteen, offering solace and companionship to the soldiers, a ray of hope against the bleak canvas of World War. Georgette personified the quintessential dream, or so it appeared. A vivacious young socialite employed at one of the nation's leading newspapers, mingling with the crème de la crème of Hollywood and playing a part in the wartime effort. She was indeed a radiant constellation in the city of stars. Despite this, a severe twist of fate awaited this young aristocrat, a reminder that life often has its own script. On an ordinary day, October 11th, 1944, Georgette, a young oil heiress, embarked on her usual routine in the bustling city of Los Angeles, amidst a nation at war. On this day, however, she had something special on her mind, a journey to El Paso, Texas. Not a trip spurred by wanderlust, but one driven by the powerful pull of love. She was to reunite with her soldier, Beau, who was stationed there. As the day unfolded, Georgette found herself in a bank, engaging in a seemingly mundane activity, cashing a check. The amount was significant, but not as noteworthy as the purpose it served. This check was more than mere paper and ink. It was her ticket to El Paso, her ticket to a promising future with her soldier Beau, a future she envisioned filled with love, laughter, and life. Nightfall found Georgette painting the town red in the vibrant Los Angeles nightlife in the company of friends. She was last seen departing a club, not solitary but accompanied by an army sergeant. The presence of this hitchhiker suggested a possible bond, potentially due to her own ties to the military through her lover. The night was brimming with promise, potential, laughter, music, and the innocent flirtations of a young woman on the cusp of a thrilling new chapter in her life. As Los Angeles slept, oblivious to the ticking of time, Georgette Bauerdorf was unknowingly spending her final hours. Tragically, as the night grew old, it was to be her last night alive. In the silence of her West Hollywood residence, a terrifying scene hung on the precipice of discovery. Amidst the tranquility of Georgette Bauerdorf's home, a shocking tableau was ready to be exposed. This was the home of the lively oil heiress, renowned for her exuberant character and lofty dreams of gracing the silver screen. Yet it was here that she was found devoid of life, her inert form submerged in the chilling waters of her own bathtub. The sight bore the disturbing mark of a violent struggle. The disorder within the apartment hinted at a tumultuous confrontation, a ferocious bid to repel an intruding enemy. The chaos whispered a frightful narrative speaking of the dread that had unfolded within her own sanctuary. The investigation revealed more than just signs of a battle. It unearthed a shockingly repugnant detail. Georgette had been subjected to a depraved act of violation preceding her death. The sinister evidence of a sexual assault adds an even more terrifying layer to the already horrific crime scene. Yet, it was the manner in which Georgette met her untimely end that was the most chilling. The young socialite did not meet a quick or merciful demise, but rather was strangled to death. Her life was violently and brutally snuffed out. The vibrant energy she once brought to Los Angeles's elite circles was abruptly extinguished in an act of senseless brutality. The contrast was stark. The lively, spirited Georgette, known for her vitality and charisma, was brutally silenced, her youthful dreams and aspirations crushed under the heavy weight of the horrific crime. The shocking homicide of Georgette Bauerdorf sent shockwaves through the esteemed circles of Los Angeles society. The city's finest detectives were deployed on this mystifying case, committed to unveiling the truth behind the brutal ending of the life of this young socialite brimming with potential. During the course of the investigation, a pool of potential culprits began to emerge, each linked to the victim in their own peculiar ways. Among the most notable was a soldier by the name of Cosmo Volpi. Volpi had been spotted with Georgette on the eve of her murder as they exited a club together. This association, combined with the timing, undeniably pointed fingers towards him. However, this circumstantial association was not substantial enough to definitively connect him to the murder. Despite the widespread attention on Volpi, he was far from being the lone suspect. In an attempt to piece the puzzle together, the investigators delved deep into Georgette's life, focusing on anyone who might have harbored resentment against her or had a possible motive. They conducted interviews with her circle of friends and acquaintances, even tracking down distant relatives. Despite this relentless pursuit, they were unable to discover the smoking gun, a conclusive piece of evidence that could pinpoint any of these suspects to the crime. As time progressed, the leads began to evaporate. The initial wave of public interest diminished and the case gradually drifted from the headlines. The detectives were caught in a conundrum they simply couldn't crack. The absence of charges and a clear suspect only intensified the enigma surrounding Georgette's tragic demise. The grim reality was that someone had ruthlessly cut short the life of this young woman, and that person was still at large, enjoying their freedom. The dreadful homicide of Georgette Bauerdorf stood as a harsh reminder of the sinister shadows that can hide beneath the dazzling veneer of high society. Despite the tireless efforts of the investigators, the case went cold. The homicide of Georgette Bauerdorf remains one of the most captivating unsolved cases in LA's history. Details at the scene lead detectives to believe someone was waiting in her apartment before she arrived. A specific light standing over 8 feet high had been unscrewed, meaning someone would have needed a ladder to reach it. Even more menacing, it was discovered her apartment had been soundproofed. Yet her neighbor was awoken and shot straight up when he heard a scream around 2:30 in the morning. However, thinking it was just a family argument, he went back to sleep. Examiners stated Georgette must have put up a serious fight, based on the bruising of the knuckles on her right hand. But in a world without cameras or home security systems, visual evidence was the quintessential needle in a haystack. The harrowing details of her death, a struggle, an alleged rape, and a lifeless body discovered in a bathtub serve as a stark reminder of this unresolved mystery that continues to engage true crime enthusiasts. The ongoing fascination with Georgette's life and the intrigue surrounding her death has remained steadfast over the years. The enthralling aristocrat who dreamed of gracing the silver screen is now the lead role in a real-life whodunit that fascinates and perplexes. Thus the question remains, who extinguished the bright light that was Georgette Bauerdorf? Envision a peaceful small town, its serenity abruptly cracked by a horrifying homicide. The year is 1948, in Redland, California. A tranquil community shocked out of its quiet existence by the gruesome discovery of the lifeless form of Marjorie Lee Winn. This heinous crime, claiming the life of a vivacious, well-loved teenager, forever transformed the once serene Redlands. It was no longer just a town, but instead it became the focal point of a mystifying crime narrative that would confound detectives for years to come. The chilling discovery of a homecoming queen's life abruptly and brutally echoed through the decades, leaving an indelible mark on the town and its history. Flashback to the tragic night of the incident, a seemingly harmless date turned fatal. 17-year-old homecoming queen Marjorie Lee Winn was looking forward to an evening of merriment with James Sloan Jr. at the Palm Springs Rodeo, a place abuzz with laughter and the promise of a night to remember. The night commenced like any other. Marjorie, a convivial young woman enthusiastic about her rendezvous. James Sloan Jr., the one accompanying her that night, was the final person to witness her alive. Gradually, the aura of joy and merriment started to shift to something more chilling and foreboding. The specifics of the night continue to be unclear. A veil of enigma shrouds the sequence of events. What occurred between Marjorie's last sighting at the rodeo and the instant her life was violently ended? These are the queries that have troubled investigators and true crime aficionados for a long time. All we know is that night took a sinister turn. Marjorie's date concluded not with the typical innocent farewells, but with a gunshot. The weapon of murder, a sawed-off .410 caliber shotgun, apparently stolen along with the vehicle while the owner, Albert Strickland, sat drinking in the bar. Marjorie Winn, a young woman with potential, met a sorrowful demise. Her existence was extinguished abruptly, converting a night of adolescent enjoyment into a chilling tale of horror. The town of Redlands, California was forever scarred. The echoes of Marjorie's laughter, the memories of her lively presence, were supplanted by the eerie silence of an unresolved murder. The unresolved mysteries, the elusive killer, the unfortunate end of a young life. All these components have entwined a convoluted web around the case of Marjorie Lee Winn. As the sun rose, the pursuit for Marjorie's murderer commenced. A pursuit that would prove futile and exasperating. In the small town of Redlands, California, the reverberations of the crime echoed, stirring a sense of urgency among the local law enforcement. Nevertheless, despite their earnest efforts, the initial stages of the probe were riddled with hurdles. The case was peculiar, lacking any apparent motive or suspect. Marjorie Lee Winn, a young 17-year-old homecoming queen, was discovered shot to death following an outing to a Palm Springs rodeo. The identity of the perpetrator, however, remained elusive. With no leads to pursue, the detectives found themselves hitting a wall, staring into the void of an unresolved homicide. Tracking through the timeline after Albert's car was stolen along with his sawed-off shotgun, a neighbor down the road, Adolf Eilts, reported seeing a car in his yard with a flashlight around 1 a.m. When Adolf and his wife went outside to confront the intruder, they said the man fled, leaving behind the stolen Packard but not the weapon. Roughly an hour later, Jim and Marjorie had pulled off the road to set their watches to the dashboard clock. As they sat, twisting their timepieces, the passenger door was suddenly flung ajar, and the barrels of the shotgun peered down at them. The obscured man holding the shotgun demanded money. Reacting, Jim slammed on the gas. Bam! The shotgun fired, piercing young Marjorie, who was in the direct line. Jim peeled off, driving to the closest neighbor as quickly as he could. However, the damage was done, and Marjorie wasn't able to hold on. The man behind the shotgun disappeared into the night. As time passed, a terrifying theory surfaced, linking Marjorie's tragic end to a notorious serial killer. The enigmatic personality under suspect. The Zodiac Killer, notorious for his confounding letters and merciless murders. A collection of unresolved homicides that sent ripples of fear across not just California, but throughout the entire nation. You must be wondering, why the Zodiac? Well, let's explore further. The Zodiac is recognized for its cryptic letters, an exclusive method of operation, so to speak. He wrote these letters to mock the police, revel in his ghastly deeds, and most critically, to misguide them. It was a game of deception for him, a perverse game where he held the upper hand. Shifting focus back to Marjorie's case, the probe was fraught with difficulties, from misleading posts on a website to jeopardized emails. A tumultuous scenario that eerily reflects the confusion and panic the Zodiac took pleasure in instigating. Could this be a recurring pattern, a signature move by the Zodiac Killer maybe? After all, he was an expert in misdirection. Here's the fact: the association between Marjorie's death and the Zodiac Killer is entirely conjectural. We lack substantial proof, no conclusive evidence that definitively associates the two. Nevertheless, the parallels are tough to overlook. The enigmatic nature of the crime, the strange circumstances encompassing it, and most significantly, the timing. The Zodiac was active during this time frame, and Marjorie's killing matches the pattern of his other crimes. So, what do we have here? A young woman's unfortunate demise, a notorious serial killer, and a tangled web of speculation and mystery. A terrifying theory that adds another layer of complexity to an already baffling case. Asks the chilling question, was Marjorie a casualty of the Zodiac? The theory introduces another level of complexity to an already baffling case. Years later, the murder of Marjorie continues to be a cold case, leaving behind a path of unresolved queries. Marjorie Lee Winn, a homecoming queen, was tragically killed by an anonymous attacker in Redlands, California in 1948. The story of her final day, her outing to a Palm Springs rodeo with James Sloan Jr., and the unfortunate conclusion of a young existence is as touching as ever. However, it isn't just the grotesque act that leaves us breathless, it's the enigmatic circumstances that envelop it. What were the killer's motivations and techniques? Why was a young existence brutally ended? These are queries that continue to puzzle detectives and true crime fanatics alike. Until next time, friends, stay safe and have a great day.